As we begin our garter snake dissection, we will first identify the tools that will be needed: probe, scalpel, scissors, tweezers, or forceps. Now it's time to examine our garter snake. The garter snake has external features that we studied earlier. Take your probe and point to each external feature. Rostrum. The rostrum is the term that we use to describe the foremost portion of the body. That means the part that extends the most. It's here. Now you're going to point to the head. The head contains the majority of the sensory and nervous organs, including the brain. Now run the probe along the trunk of the snake. The trunk makes up the bulk of the body and contains the major structures of the organ systems: the circulatory system, the digestive system, the excretory system, and the reproductive system. Now you will notice the tail. The tail is at the end of the body of the snake, and if you flip the snake over, you will see that the cloaca is just before the tail. The cloaca is the common opening of the urinary and reproductive systems. It receives waste from the kidneys and fluids from the reproductive organs and transfers them out to the external environment. You will also notice that there are scales. The dorsal body scales look much different than the ventral or belly scales. The belly scales cover and protect the lower length of the body. They are shaped like elongated rectangles. The ventral body plates are attached to the muscles and used for locomotion or movement. The dorsal scales cover the dorsal side of our snake. The dorsal scales protect the snake and help it from drying out. You will also look closely at the head of the snake. The scales on the head are large plate-like scales that are very indicative of garter snakes. And this helps scientists identify the different kinds of snakes they find in the wild. You will also notice that there are eyes on the side of the head. The eyes are used for deciphering visual images. It is protected by the upper and lower eyelids, which are transparent and fused shut. The nostril functions as the passageway for air, and then you will very carefully take your probe and insert it into the snake's mouth. This serves as an entryway for food. You will also be able to feel the gripping teeth on the snake. Now that we are done examining the external features of our snake, we are going to turn our snake over to the ventral side to begin the first incision. If you are right-handed, you hold the scalpel in your right hand, being careful not to touch the sharp edge of the scalpel. You have the other hand that you do not write with, you're going to hold the tail. Then you're going to place your scalpel by the cloaca and wait for an adult to make sure that you're holding the tools correctly. Once the adult has examined your scalpel and made sure that you know exactly in which direction to hold it, you may begin making your first incision. When you use the scalpel, you're not going to saw back and forth. You're going to make one slice, look to see if you've cut through. If you haven't, go ahead and make another. Continue to look and keep pushing down and cutting until you have cut through. When you can place your probe inside, then you will put your scalpel down and not use it again. Now that you've made that initial incision, you're going to use your scissors to begin cutting all the way up to just below the head. There are two ways to cut our snake. You may hold the snake's tail and use the scissors in the hand that you write with and just very slowly snip, snip, snip. And as you go upward, you slide your hand, always making sure that the hand that you don't write with is not in front of the scissors. You want to make sure that you keep it behind. The other option is to lift with the probe and cut, but at times that might be a little difficult for you. So I find it best to hold it here and just continue cutting. And you're going to cut along the center of the snake, making sure that you pull upward so that you're not cutting the organs as you move down the body. Take your time, concentrate. You might notice some fluid leaving the body. That's just, these are the chemicals that are used to preserve the snakes. I'm going to slide the snake down because the head is off the pad. We're almost there. And here we stop. Now we're going to put our scissors down. Your scalpel will have already been collected by a grown-up. And now we're going to open up and look at the internal features of our snake. As we discussed earlier, the snake skin sort of curves back in, so we will be needing pins to help us hold the skin back. This container has the pins you will need to hold back the skin. What we have found works best if you take your probe and you separate the lining from the skin. You're going to make sure that you pin sideways so you don't go all the way through the pad and make holes on the table. You're going to put your probe underneath the organs, sort of scrape off the integument, which is the skin that lines the body, and we're going to put our pins in sideways. I'm going to take some off to have them ready. I'm going to scrape and as you continue to separate the skin, you will notice that it is much easier to start pinning. We're actually almost done. And we are almost to the cloaca. We want to make sure that we pin all the way back and all the way up to the trachea. And we are done pinning. Now it is time to find the internal anatomy card that you use to study. This card will help you identify the features. I'm going to move the information page that is also something that you can look at to refer to. So let's begin. The first thing we're going to try to identify, and I'm going to turn this sideways so that you can see it better, is you are going to look here for the trachea. The trachea is the passageway for air that leads to the lungs. It is composed of cartilage and is ribbed in appearance. So you're going to see a structure that looks like little ridges in there. Next, we're going to move along, and I want you to take your finger and you are going to feel the heart. It's right here. The heart is responsible for pumping blood throughout the body. It has 3 chambers. As we move along, we are going to look for the lung. The lung is this feature here. We know that the snake only has 1 functioning lung. It has a second one non-functioning, and it's not functioning because of the elongated feature of the body. It really has only room for 1. Let's continue. So we have trachea, heart, lung, liver, trachea, heart, lung, liver. Now we're ready for the liver. I'm going to take the probe and we are going to look for the liver. It is the most prominent feature. That means the most recognized one, other than the fat bodies, which are very noticeable. But the liver is the feature that you see right away when you cut open your snake. It has many functions. It metabolizes carbohydrates and fats, produces bile and bile salts that disperse fats in the duodenum, which is the first portion of the small intestine, and it contains cells which contain enzymes that detoxify poisons. Now it's time to refer back to our card. We did trachea, heart, lung, liver. Now it's time for us to find the stomach. Here is the stomach. The stomach secretes acidic juices that help break down food into slightly liquid states. Food then passes into the duodenum. As we continue to look at our card, we're going to look for the gallbladder. The green gallbladder is here, but we do notice that we have fat bodies that are in our way. So you're going to put your probe down, you're going to take your tweezers, and you're going to very carefully remove the fat bodies. Try your best to go very, very slowly and very gently lift up the fat bodies. Alright, so now we have removed the fat bodies, and it did take a while because, as you can see, there were lots and lots of fat bodies, and fat bodies are the stored fat for energy for our snake. There's still a few more that I want to remove. And now it's time to look at our diagram again. We went through trachea, heart, lung, liver, stomach. and we sang that as we reviewed. Now it's time for the gallbladder, which we see here. The gallbladder is a round pea-green structure. It stores and concentrates bile secreted by the liver and delivers it to the intestine through the bile duct. Then you will see the pancreas, which is right here, this structure, right here. This is the major gland of the digestive system. It secretes juices into the small intestine. It's a combination of water, electrolytes, and enzymes. It also produces insulin and other hormones for the snake. Now we're ready. We studied trachea, heart, lung, liver, stomach, gallbladder, pancreas. Now we're on small intestine. And here we can see our small intestines. I'm actually going to lift them up a little bit so you can see. And these intestines have a special job. They're the major site of nutrient absorption and digestion. They receive the bile from the bile duct and is the site of emulsification, digestion, and absorption of fat. It receives those pancreatic enzymes that I talked about earlier. The latter portion of the intestine digests bacteria, reabsorbs water, and then forms the feces. That is the waste product, the poop, that will eventually go out the body through the cloaca. So now we're ready. We finished small intestine. We talked about the fat bodies, that's the stored energy for our snake. And now we're also looking to see if our snake is a male or female. We know that we have to find testes, and we have found in earlier dissections that the testes almost look like slivers of like an almond. That was the best way that I could describe it. And I do not see any testes here. But what I do see are eggs. So eggs can only be found in the female. This is a female. We had our diagram that we studied earlier that described the ovary, and it also helped us understand the reproductive system of a female. So now you will see the eggs. I'm going to try to remove some. And here we have more. So we have a right and left ovary, and here are the developing ovum. Now we're ready to look for the kidneys. The kidneys are located below the ovary. The kidneys function in the excretion of the fluids within the body, and the waste leaves the body through the cloaca. We also see that we have feces developing here. We see here that we have the large intestine, and this begins the development of the waste product, the poop. So we cut this open, we would see that. And then it travels here through the rectum and out the cloaca. I'm also going to be opening up this snake to see if we should happen to have a male, so we can try to locate the testes. We have now made the incision and opened up the other snake. We were fortunate enough to have a snake that is a male. We have all the same features that match our information card in our diagram. We have the trachea, heart, lung, liver, stomach, pancreas, small intestine. Not a lot of fat bodies in this one, just a few. Then we have to find the testes. And we mentioned that it's almost like a slice of, it reminds me of an almond, but here is the testes. This is the right testes. And we know because of the elongated body, they're not side by side, just like the ovaries. One was above the other. And here is the other testes. Let's see. Just had it. There's one. Let's see. There's one, and the other one is, I'm going to lift this up a little bit, and that'll help us. And so here's one, and I'm going to remove it. And the other structure is on this side. Here's the left one, and then we want to continue further to see if we can find the hemipenis, which is used in reproduction. And the hemipenis will be found near the cloaca. As we continue with our dissection, and once you have identified all the internal features, you may very carefully, if time allows, remove the organ. So you would remove the heart by using your forceps or tweezers to lift it, and you make a cut here and a cut here, and then you may place it on the pad to examine it and do a transverse cut so that you may see the internal structure. We also can continue to remove the different organs and work along the body until you reach the cloaca. Once you are completely finished with removing the different structures, you may very carefully remove the pins and get ready to clean up.